Hey guys, how's it going? Here we are back with another hand that I played recently in my casino. So as you can see, we play with 2 and 4 Euro blinds and we have pocket threes in the small blind. So here hijack limbs, yeah, cut off folds, button called as well. Of course with pocket threes we don't want to ISO, we want to complete. Don't want to play marginal holding out of position against a lot of opponents.
Yeah.
So a big blind checks.
What do you think would be your ISO range for like pocket pairs here?
Um, Yeah, I think without knowing the button and the hijack too well, I think something like sevens, eights plus.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my bottom range. Or do you think?
Yeah, that seems about right. Like, yeah, if I think they're both going to call a lot, then like definitely eights or nines plus. And I think if you think you can get maybe some folds with a bigger size, and you could maybe go like sevens. But I think it's most times people end up just limp calling, and you really got to hit a set. So it's not
Yeah, that's the
obviously
problem
not easy to play
when you
with
play
pocket
so
pairs.
often out of position. It's super tough to go to showdown to realize your equity.
Yeah,
And like
especially.
you mentioned, when you think we have more full equity pre-flop, we should ISO raise a little bit lighter. Same applies to the offsuit Broadway hands. And when we think, oh, they call all the time, when we have to play three-handed, four-handed most of the time, we should just ISO with a tighter range.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, big blind checks and great flop,
Yeah,
obviously. So
best flop ever.
yeah, so obviously we basically have the nuts. We don't expect anyone to have pocket tens. So I think yeah, either leading or checking, playing to check raise, both options seem fine.
Yeah,
Whatever you want really here. I don't think you really need to think about like building advanced like leading ranges and stuff in these games. You can just like smash when you have value if you want, and then throw in some good bluffs, and you'll be totally fine. You don't have to worry about like yeah too much. I don't think.
yeah, I agree. I think mixing between check raising and betting is important. I think with players that are a bit more active, I would check raise a little bit more often. With some passive players, I would lead a little bit more often.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's why I just decided to lead with my super strong holding here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see,
lead 20 into 16. This is also important, I think, that you don't lead too small on the flop, because on the flop, especially fun players don't really care how big you bet in relation to the pot. So it makes no sense to bet 10 bucks
mm,
when you can bet 20 bucks, because they are usually going to call with the same range. So you just produce a way higher EV when you bet bigger. And yeah, that's why it's important to start building a huge pot on the flop, because it multiplies, right? When you arrive on the river, there's so much more money in the pot. It's not that you're losing 10 bucks, you're losing hundreds.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, leading out big and get called in two spots. So obviously feeling confident about our hand.
Yeah.
Five on the turn. I mean, kind of interesting. Obviously brings in like 6-3 suited and ace four, and then pocket fives. People would definitely call flop with pocket fives. I think in these games. Um, so what do you think here?
Yeah, on the turn, I think so. Hijack limped, so he is a fun player, and the big blind was also a fun player that was playing somewhat loose, but he was definitely very bad post flop.
Hmm.
Clearly a bit unexperienced. So yeah, I think we can still extract a ton of value from all the 10x hands that limp pre-flop, like 10-9, 10-jack, queen-jack, all the 10x hands. And same applies to the flush draws. Also, there are some combo draws now when they have like ace-x of spades. So I definitely want to charge those draws. And like I mentioned, those players are on the more passive side, so I don't think they are leading with their flush draws often enough.
Hmm.
So I'm a big fan of just continue betting for value on the turn with somewhat bigger sizing.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. I think it's a good point you make too about like um, checking because a lot of times you have that inclination to check because you want to maybe check raise. I think here check raise maybe would be too thin because people could just have like ace four off and you just crush. But I think in spots where maybe you have the nuts and you're considering maybe I should be checking here to induce bluffs, you definitely want to be careful in these games because people oftentimes play their draws pretty passively and they just like check back and basically then you're just giving free equity. Um,
Yes.
Especially if you block the board. I mean, here you're not blocking too much, right? People can still have some 10x, but if you're in a spot where let's say you have like I don't know top set or top two pair or something, you got to be careful because when you block a lot of their good value hands and then they're also passive, it's just it becomes a pretty big mistake when you just check all the time. Obviously, I think you want to do it occasionally, especially against good players, because then it lets them know, like, when you check, your range can still be nutted. So they can't just get away with always betting against you. But I think against straightforward players, you just want to go for value.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what you do, bet out. I like the sizing. Definitely want to keep going bigger. We're obviously not, we're betting a pretty polarized range here. We're not betting like a hand like King 10 anymore if we chose to bet that on the flop. So yeah, using a bigger sizing. And now the big blind calls, hijack folds, river's the 9 of diamonds. And what do you think here?
Yeah, again, all the options are on the table. So most, or not most, but a lot of draws brick, especially the flush draws. So we can either elect to value bet against 10x or check call against all the busted draws. And again, I think it's important against which player we are playing. Like I mentioned before, big blind was recreational, was playing too loose, was fairly passive. So I think with most flush draws, he's just checking back. So yeah, checking makes not too much sense. Because I also think even with a good 10, he will always call river, really always call with basically any 10x. But if I check, I think he's only betting 10-9 because he was really passive. And that's why I think the only option here is to value bet. So pot is 200, and I think I bet a little bit over 100, like 130 or something like this, right?
Yeah, see bet 130, and now he jams. So yeah, pretty gross
It's a
spot.
gross spot.
Yeah.
What do you think here?
I think I think it's really close. I think it's really depends on the player. I think if he's really passive, you could get away with folding this. But I think if he has any like spazzy tendencies, or maybe if he overvalues some hands, I think calling can be okay because we are getting a pretty good price. It just depends on if he's going to overvalue a hand like 10-9. Because obviously your line looks really strong. So I think reasonably, if he has 10-9, he should never be raising his river because you can still have like 3s, 2s, 10-3 suited. Oh, actually, I guess he beats 10-3 suited, but yeah, you can have the 3s and 2s and possibly a hand like 6-3 suited, or sorry, 6-4 suited or ace-4 suited. So I think in that case, I think folding can be okay here, just making a really tight fold because we don't really expect players to be bluffing on the river. So that's the main problem, right? Is that if he can have some bluffs, then for sure that you just have to call, right? There's no way you can fold. But I think when players have like no bluffs, and then if you're really unsure if they would ever do this with worse value, then it can be a spot to definitely deviate a lot and just fold. So yeah, I think it's really close. I wouldn't like if you call. I think it's totally fine as well. I think it wouldn't be a mistake, but I think folding is also fine too. So it really just depends on your feel of the player, and if you have no info, maybe I would definitely just always call, I think, against an unknown, because you just never know if they could have like, who knows, like 9-3 suited or something, right, in these games. But if you have a read that he's just one of those players in these games who just never gets out of line, then yeah, you could definitely lay down.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like you mentioned, when we ask a solver, should we call here? Obviously, we should call, because yeah, otherwise we are falling close to our whole range when we fold forward sprees on the river. But the problem is really that live games are overall way more passive, even nowadays, and especially here the big blind was passive. So I think this is a fairly clear fold, because with 10-9 I never see him raising this hand on the river. But like you mentioned, you see a lot of weird things in live games. So against an unknown, I cannot fold because the price we're getting is too good, and he can just overvalue some hands. Some people are also just overvaluing overpairs. So some people can definitely have like jacks or queens in this scenario and play it the same way. I've seen this before. And then obviously it's a huge blunder to fold pocket sprees. But when you play against a passive opponent and okay, he's probably not shoving 10-9, then he's also not shoving with pocket jacks on the river. So he probably has like ace-4 or 3-6 the vast majority of the time. And yeah, it's tough, but I laid this hand down because the player was passive, and yeah, I think he has basically 0 bluffs. And you have this on a lot of runouts that basically your opponent will never bluff raise, because you bet flop, you bet turn, you bet river. They don't think you can fold, so they just play according to the hand. When they have nothing, they have a draw or bust a draw, they just go ahead and fold. And when they have a super strong hand, they just raise. So it's sometimes pretty simple. So always think about your opponent's range, if he has enough bluffs or hands that you beat. And when you think, oh, he has no bluffs, and I would also never value raise a worse hand, yeah, then you should probably go ahead and fold, even when you're getting a somewhat good price.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And I mean, we can also have some. We can have some nutted hands. I mean, we can still have like at least 6-4 suited, ace-4 suited in our
Yeah,
range.
definitely.
So we're not going to be. Obviously we're pretty high up, but we're not like we're not super as far as like the bet line. I'm trying to think of like other hands we would take this line with, like maybe some. It's not. It wouldn't be good with like spades really, because then we're blocking their folding range. So if they jam, we're just like I'd rather just go bet check with the spades. So really,
Yes.
as far as our range here, there's not too many other hands. Maybe some hands like, yeah, it's definitely hard to think of some. Maybe some backdoor heart draws. Those could be okay jams if you had like an ace. I don't know, maybe like an ace-3 of hearts or something where you block a straight and then you block sets. That would be a reasonable bluff, I think. But as far as like front door draws, I can't really see too many. So yeah, yeah, it should be a good spot just to make a tight fold.
Yeah, also against unknowns, what is important, I think, is that they usually raise their strong hands on the turn a large portion of the time. So hand like 3-6 or ace-4 is going to raise. So this means they have less strong hands on the river. So yeah, when you think they have any bluffs or any worse hands on the river, you can always make this call. This is, I think, important to realize.
Yeah.
But when you think he's fairly passive, they love to slow play, they love to trap, and they're overall fairly passive, you have to make those tight laydowns. Just use Accolab or any other equity software to check if you have the needed equity to call. And yeah, when you only have like 10%, then you should go ahead and fold.
Yeah. So it's a good hand. And then I guess he didn't show, obviously.
Oh, he showed ace-4. I think you can. I put it also in the replay, right?
Oh, okay. He showed. Okay, nice.
Yeah, he showed. He smiled and showed the hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, at least I know I made a good laydown. But overall, of course, you should not care about the end result. When you think it is a correct move, it is still the correct move.
Yeah.
Even if you show a spade draw, it is what it is. You just go with your intuition and your read. And when you think it's okay, then your play was fine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so good disciplined play. I mean, in these games, you got to have those disciplined plays because otherwise, yeah, it's going to be tough if you're just kind of always putting yourself in marginal spots when people don't bluff enough. You can definitely burn a lot of money. And yeah, I mean, making these tight folds can make a big difference in your win rate for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, guys, stay tuned for the next hand. We'll see you next time.
All right, later.